I'm Carmine Gallo. I'm here with Melanie Perkins, who's the co-founder and CEO of Canva, the online design tool. Today is a big day and it's a big week because you just locked up a new round of funding and the company is worth $2.5 billion. Is that correct? Is that the right amount?
That is correct.
When you had this idea at 19 years old and you were teaching Photoshop to university students in your spare time, did you ever think this would happen?
Okay, there's two parts to this.
Tell me.
Part one, we've done 1% of what we would like to do. We've got like way further to go.
That's a big dream. Okay.
The other side is completely surreal to see so many people across the world using Canva. Our team's 600 people now, seeing it growing so rapidly. That's definitely pretty surreal.
But it's interesting because entrepreneurs like yourself do dream big. Most people, that exceeds their craziest vision, and yet you're telling me that it's only 1%? What do you mean?
So one of the things that we like to do is to set crazy big goals and make them happen. And like when we say crazy big, we mean like pretty astronomical. And so actually back in 2011 when I first went to San Francisco, I had this little paper pitch deck that was saying that we were going to become the future of publishing and take over a couple of big companies.
Wow. Well, congratulations. You're on your way. Tell me about this simplicity of message. A few months ago, I was interviewing Guy Kawasaki, who I know is your chief evangelist and a partner with Canva. And he told me there were two things that intrigued him about your original conversation with him. One was your background story. We'll get to that. But second was the simplicity of the vision. Do you recall how simple that vision was and why you made it that simple?
Yeah, I guess one of our things is to make complex things simple. And so pretty much there's a very complicated design system, a very complicated design process, and we wanted to make it really simple. And that simplicity translates through to our product, but it also translates through to the messaging. We want to empower the whole world to design. And when we mean the whole world, we literally mean every single country, every single industry, every single person across the globe.
Empower everyone to design simply.
Exactly.
Yeah. Tell me about the story. When you were 19, I know part of it, when you were 19, you were teaching other students at your university in Australia to use Photoshop. What happened then? How did that go from your instruction to this idea that is now worth $2.5 billion?
So I was teaching design programs and students were just struggling learning the very basics. There were so many buttons and it would take months just to learn where the buttons were, to learn how to actually make something look good. And so I thought this was completely ridiculous. And it was at the same time Facebook was taking off and Facebook was going gangbusters and no one was having to study that for years to learn how to use it. And I thought this was completely ridiculous, that these were all these desktop-based software that was really, really expensive. It was like $1,500 at the time. And so what I wanted to do was just make it really simple, and then not only make the software really simple, but then to enable lots of high quality ingredients. So you'd have to go to a stock photography library and a font library and a layout library and do all these crazy things. And so I wanted to make that entire thing ridiculously simple. And this was a pretty big ambition, and at this point in time I was 19 and I had no business experience or marketing experience or any related experience whatsoever. So rather than trying to take over the entire world of design at that point in time, decided to take on school yearbooks in Australia. Took my mum's living room and turned it into our office. And then that started to grow really well, and we launched in France, New Zealand, but wanted to take it to the next level.
Melanie, when I was preparing to meet you and talk to you, I watched some of your interviews, I've read a lot about you. The story is consistent, and you tell the story of how you started and the frustration that you felt and working out of your mom's house. You tell that story frequently.
I do.
I want to dig a little deeper. Why? Well, why do you're worth $2.5 billion, your company is now. Why do you feel the necessity of repeating that story from more than a decade ago?
So, a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
One is everyone says, how did you create Canva, or why did you create Canva? And the answer is still the same every time I get asked that exact same question. I guess the other side is, I think a lot of people can relate to that problem. A lot of people can relate to going into something like Photoshop or InDesign and being completely overwhelmed. And so I think that it's kind of important, because if you don't understand the problem, you won't understand the solution. And I think that is why we had, like when we were pitching investors, originally we started just talking about our solution right from page one, And then we realized that actually what we needed to do was to articulate the problem. Why did this matter? Why did so many people care about it? And only if investors understood the problem could they care about our solution. And so that was a pretty transformative thing that we learned while we were pitching investors.
What you're telling us is that it's not just the information or the features or the benefits of a particular product that catch people's attention. It's the story of why that product exists.
Yeah, there's an amazing TED Talk a few years back, and it said, if you don't understand the why, you're not going to understand essentially, if you don't understand the problem, you're not going to understand the solution. If you don't understand the why, you're not going to understand the how, the what, or even care. And so it's really important that people can understand and relate to why something came about.
Let's talk finally about presentations and what you can teach everyone else, not only from your own experience pitching Canva for several years and going through a lot of rejections, but always refining your pitch as you went along. What did you learn not only from there, but the 20 million presentations that have now been created on Canva? What tips do you have for anyone selling their ideas through a presentation?
There's a few things. Actually many things, because I've done many pitch decks over the years. I think one of the most important things was every time we got a question or a problem, or in many times a rejection, what we'd actually do is take that on board and then try to make the pitch deck better, try to make our strategy stronger. And so this was just a completely repetitive process. So we'd get an investor who'd be like, hey, I'm not going to invest in you because you're the same as some other company, or I'm not going to invest in you because XYZ. And so when they would say that, or I don't understand your industry, so then one of the earliest slides in our deck became an articulation of the market landscape and exactly where that gap in the market was. And then another slide became trying to articulate the design process and why it's so complicated and tricky. And until people understood that, they wouldn't understand why our product mattered. So that's sort of the first part. And then another thing is just to try to make the deck as simple as possible. You should be able to articulate in the title exactly the point of that page, keep one point per page, and just make it as simple as possible to understand. Another one is like anything that you can show it. So don't display lots of text, try to display as many pictures as you can, try to display as many graphs as you can, try to articulate it through pictures rather than text. And like try to keep the death by PowerPoint is kind of the goal that everyone's striving to not do. Mm-hmm. And that, I guess, is the the stereotypical ugly as hell PowerPoint slide is just lots of dot points. And I guess the goal is to not have that, just trying to demonstrate through pictures and mocks and photos exactly what it is that you're doing.
What's interesting is everything you just said is reinforced by neuroscience. It's the way people think, it's the way we'd like to process information, is graphically through visuals, simplicity. And yet in business we've gone so far to the extreme where it's all very boring.
Yeah.
It's very boring and it's all just bullet points and text and exactly unlike the way people, your audience, wants to receive the information. What happened? How did we go so off base? I'm glad you're kind of bringing it back to the way people enjoy listening to information.
Yeah, I think that I couldn't agree more, firstly. And I think that if you look at the trend of social media has become increasingly visual, and a lot of industries are moving that way. And so I'd be very shocked if in a couple of years' time we don't see presentations. I mean, at our company, everyone has these amazing presentations now that are just lots and lots of visuals, lots and lots of graphs and photography, and I think that we're going to see that trend happen throughout business presentations as well.
And what I love about Canva is that people who don't have that design experience, and frankly a lot of business people who I talk to or who I work with, or they're former, maybe they're engineers or scientists, they don't necessarily know how to design a presentation. They know what they like. Mm-hmm. So Canva makes it easy to create those graphic, visually interesting and intriguing presentations.
I think that one of the most powerful things is having incredible templates. So this is beautiful typography, beautiful colors, beautiful imagery that makes your presentation way more engaging. Being able to have all of the dynamic content inside your presentation will make your audience way more interested in what you've got to say. And then it's completely free to use. So you can just go to canva.com, sign up for an account, and you can create a presentation really, really quickly, utilizing all the 50,000 amazing templates. So you look like a pro to your audience. I think that's probably one of the most important things, is to look really feel awesome in front of whoever it is that you're presenting.
But you have to present it in Canva, right?
Yeah, actually, you can do a number of things. So you can present from Canva, and that's super quick. You just click a button, and it goes full screen, and you can present amazingly. You can download it as a PDF. But we also just recently launched the option to download as a PowerPoint. So if you are sort of strapped to the old way of doing things and needing to present it in a PowerPoint for whatever reason, you can now do that directly from Canva. So you can actually go in, create the gorgeous presentation, and then click publish, and then download it as a PowerPoint.
Is it going to look the same?
That's exactly the point, is that you can download it directly, and then it will look exactly the same with all of the beautiful photography and typography and everything that you designed in your Canvas
So
presentation.
you really are making it easier for people to design and to give presentations.
That's exactly
even if
right.
they're used to the PowerPoint way.
Exactly.
Well, Melanie, thank you for democratizing design for the rest of us. Thank you so much. It's
Thank
wonderful
you.
meeting you.
Lovely to meet you too.